there are wrong ways to get your identity back. There are ways you can try to get that back that will fail you miserably. And there are ways to get it back that will not. So stay tuned for this. I am super excited to give you guys this information. This is a long video. Please listen from start to finish. If the identity thing is the issue for you, please listen start to finish, because there's a lot of information here. And there'll be a little bit of an interactive part. I'm going to get you to do some deep breathing and remember some things, just as a way to make the learning easier for you, maybe a little bit more interesting as well, and more personal and relatable to you. I am over a year out of that relationship. I'm a year into recovery. Guys, you've got to trust me. I do not have resentment. I don't have hopes. I have none of these delusions. I have had what 12 Steps calls a psychic change. The psychic change is not just a change of how you view the world or how you work with other people. It's actually how you relate to yourself. If you want better boundaries, if you want to stop feeling like such a beta, if you want to stop feeling like such a loser or such a codependent or whatever it is, it begins with your relationship to yourself. And that change is a change of action. It's a series of actions repeated over and over again. It's not an aha moment. It is not more information. That being said, I'm going to show you what happened and what can happen to your healing, because there are wrong ways to get your identity back. There are ways you can try to get that back that will fail you miserably. And there are ways to get it back that will not. So stay tuned for this. I am super excited to give you guys this information. It's based out of my own insights, 12-step insights, Buddhism insights. So again, this is an interactive presentation. This is an interactive journey. And for this one, we have the love bomb phase. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go back to the love bomb phase. That early time in the relationship where everything was perfect, right? Maybe you shared all of your goals and all of your fears and all of everything with your partner. Maybe you didn't share 100% during the love bomb, but you sure shared a lot of vulnerable things, right? So I want you to close your eyes again and take 2 deep breaths. So go back in time now. Remember some of the sights, the smells, the sounds. What did the light look like? Was it winter time? Was it fall? Was it spring? Was it summer? What were the kind of activities you were doing together? I want you to bring back and embody those feelings, those beautiful, wonderful feelings you had together. Okay? I want you to try to remember it without remembering the bad that happened after. Try to be as in that moment and as in that history as possible. Now, if you need to pause the video in order to embody that more, in order to get into that more, feel free to pause the video. And as soon as you can come to that, then you can unpause. Once you're in that place of where you were, I want you to try to remember, how did you feel about your past when you were in the love bomb? So how did you feel about all of your life leading up to the point where you met that significant other? How did you feel in that moment when you were in love and everything was great? How did you feel about your past? Now I want you to do the same thing with the future. When you were in that love bomb, how did you feel about your future? What did your future look like when you were deeply in love? And now we're going to come to the present in that moment where you were. In the present where you were, how did you feel in that moment, in those moments? Right? That glistening sunshine, the light in the bedroom, that special activity you did together, that time you were so close. How did you feel in the present moment? Okay, now I invite you to open your eyes and let's look at this chart. So, let's start with the past. Okay, so in the love bomb phase, when we think back to the past, we think everything was logical that happened to me on some level, right? We have this real acceptance of the past. Like, yeah, all this crazy stuff happened in my life, and this thing was fucked up, and this thing happened, and that thing happened. But you know what? Everything was worth it because all roads led to this deep love I have right now. So everything led me here. All of the karma, all of the cause and effect of my life led me here. How amazing is that, right? What a beautiful feeling. And in that same light, we have zero resentments, okay? Even the times when some of those resentments come up, we can somehow let them go easily. So even some stuff might bother us about, oh, this thing happened, I'm so angry or whatever, but we at least let it go really quickly, right? It's not like no resentments ever come up, but just when they come up, they don't really seem to matter, and they just like bounce off of us. Or you can imagine how light you feel in love, and it's like the weight of your past is like removed, right? The weight of your past is removed. You let go of all of the past resentments. When you're in the love bomb, how did you feel about the future? So let's go there now. So the future is full of abundant possibilities. How many amazing dreams did you share with your borderline, with your narcissist, with that abuser of what was going to happen? Maybe you were going to get married, have kids, whatever it was, but there were so many possibilities, and all of your dreams were possible. Like everything was possible. What an incredible thing. Maybe you even shared with them some of your fears. I really want to do this. I really would like to quit my job and do this instead. Or, I really want to do this thing that I always wanted to do. And they're like, yes, you would be the best at that. I could totally see you doing it. You'll be amazing. And, you're just feeling so great. So there's abundant possibilities, right? The future is actually inviting, right? The future is like calling to you, come. It's optimistic, but it's inviting to you. The future is just like, oh my God, it's going to be all uphill from here. And part of the reason why the future is inviting is because there are no threats, right? There's no threats in the future at all. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place to inhabit. Finally, we're going to come to the present. So in that moment, when you're in love and stuff like that, how do you feel? Well, of course, we have love and connection. So remember, back at the last slide I showed you, we have that core self, and that core self feels as if it can be its truest self when we feel connection and when we feel love. When we feel love, that truest part of you, the true side of you, can really come out and flourish, and it can, it can be its most bright self. All right, so that's one of the amazing gifts we have. We have acceptance, which is so great, right? Think about it. When you're thinking about the past, no resentments. You have acceptance of the way things are. You had a bad day, oh, whatever, it's okay, no big deal. And we have a mind of patience. This is really big. So even though the future has, is optimistic and inviting, we have patience. We know that, I do want to switch my career, but maybe it's not something I'm going to do tomorrow. Maybe it's something I'll work on over the next year, and it's okay. I have this partner. We're going to be stable. The only thing I can think of that's might feel a little bit impatient when you're in the present is marriage, right? Maybe it's like, oh my God, I found you already. Let's just move in and get married. So there might be some impatience that way, but generally you have a mind of patience. So look at all of this stuff. How wonderful is that? Okay? And again, let's come back once more to this picture of identity, okay? And we're going to come back to this core, all right? Well, we'll come back to the whole thing. So actually, even these negative parts of you, you have total acceptance of. It doesn't even matter. It's totally fine. It's totally okay, right? The negative sides of you, even that are kind of hidden from you, maybe they come out as well, and they're cool too. Everybody's cool. Everything's fine. Your core is just lighting up. and your connection, you're in full love, full abundance, is so amazing. So of course, why wouldn't you miss that? Why wouldn't you? So of course, why wouldn't you miss that? Why wouldn't you want to go back to that? Completely logical, friends. All right, it's time for us to do one more meditation. This is a harder one. This is going to be on the discard phase. If you are currently in the ups and downs of a discard phase, try to remember the last one that happened. If you're way past that, remember the final discard, okay? But really, it almost doesn't matter which discard you choose. It could be the first, the second, the third. It doesn't really matter. They're all going to have similar feelings. Maybe the first discard is a little bit too... If you had confusion in it, you might not have had the same responses. So, okay, for the discard phase, I want you to think about the last discard you had, the final discard you had, all right? We're going to do the same meditation we did on the love bomb phase. I invite you as well that if this feels too triggering or too traumatizing, I've got the chapters listed on the bottom. Feel free to skip ahead. How this is going to go is we're going to be looking at these, and then we're going to be talking about what happens in between the love bomb and the discard phase for us to lose our pieces of our identity. So that's the next part. If you want to skip ahead to that because it's too traumatizing, absolutely, no judgment, go for it. But if you have a little bit of courage to do this, guys, I promise we will, it will be helpful if you can go into it. But if you can't, if it's too tough, just skip ahead. All right. So close your eyes and take 2 deep breaths in. Okay. So I want you to remember where you were after that discard. I don't want you to remember the discard itself, even though of course it is super painful. Okay? You can remember parts of that discard, but I want you to really think about when you were discarded and they were not there. Where were you? Where was one of the places you were? Okay? I want you to think about where you were. What did the room look like? What did the lighting look like? What was the season? Was it fall? Was it winter? Was it spring? Was it summer? Was there music playing? Was it nighttime? Was it daytime? Remember one of those times you were totally alone, totally by yourself and discarded. Come back into those feelings. Now again, if you need a couple of minutes in order to embody that, feel free to pause the video and then unpause it once you're back present in that place. Okay, so now that you're back there, I want you to think, how do you feel in that moment? And when you're back there, what are your thoughts about the past? The past can stretch back just to your relationship, but it can go all the way back to your birth. Okay? How do you feel about the past? How does it feel when you're sitting there alone looking at your past? What do you think? What are the emotions that come up? What are the thoughts that come up? What are the beliefs that come up? Now shift your focus to the future. Not the future you're in now, but the future as you imagined it when you were alone and discarded, when the future hadn't happened yet. What were your thoughts on the future? What were you thinking about? What did the future look like and feel like? What were your beliefs about the future? Okay, and the last one, in that moment when you were there, what were your thoughts about life in that moment? in that moment, what were your desires, what were your thoughts, what were your beliefs, and most importantly, what did you think you had to do in that moment? What did you need in that moment? What did you desire in that moment? Okay. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, and we're going to look at this chart. We're going to do the same thing we did for the love bomb, but with the final discard. So, our past. How did you feel about the past? So, we went from everything was logical. We had a kind of a stable past. Everything now is illogical, right? The past is chaos. This is really hard. This is when we're having issues, not just around our own identity. Who was our partner? Who is he? Who is she? Who are they? What's the real them? None of this makes sense anymore. Okay? Maybe you think all the way back, how did I get here? I don't get it. How did I wind up in this chaos? Like, what happened? Where did I go wrong? What was the misstep? What was the cause? What was the first cause of all of this? Was it my childhood? Was it that I lost my job just before this relationship, right? We're having this kind of like, I don't get it. What changed? What happened? How did I go from loving me and everything was great to not? And it's all of this, okay? A lot of the research we do online is to try to make sense of the past, okay? It's not bad to go online and do this research. We're very lucky we have the internet. Your past is full of resentment, okay? Now, I'm using resentment in terms of 12 steps, which is you're reliving, you're refeeling, you're rethinking. So you're full of resentment, and in fact, we can put some of this even in the present, because obviously we're accessing all of our emotions and all of our thoughts from that present moment, but you're full of resentment, right? You're reliving everything. You're trying to figure it out. You're reliving that love bomb. You're reliving the first discard. You're reliving the time they split on you. You're reliving your life before that. But you're also full of resentment in terms of the anger. Did they set me up? They're a narcissist. They're, whatever it is. You're trying, like, what the fuck? She lied to me. He lied to me. Okay. Again, totally different than here. Here we had 0 resentments. Now let's go to the future. The future's empty. I don't know about you guys, but when I was there, I kind of had no future. I couldn't imagine a future without my partner. I needed them to be there for the future to even exist. It was like, without them, there's no future. I can't imagine doing anything without them. There's 0 future. It's totally empty. We went from abundant possibilities, infinity or whatever, to 0. It's empty. There's nothing in my future now. It's terrifying and it's pessimistic. So if I'm trying to get to that place of acceptance, okay, it's over, it's terrifying. How can I do this alone? And this is pessimistic. I'll always be broken. My life will never be good enough. They've moved on. All of this. It's absolutely terrible, fearful. So of course, because we're afraid, it's now full of threats. We have all these threats in the future, right? There's no safety. The only thing that feels non-threatening at times is our partner, but we actually go back and forth, right, between that. We actually go back and forth from, sometimes our fear is them. Sometimes we don't want them to come back. We know the control. We know cognitively, right? We know cognitively that, we shouldn't go back, but our heart, how does our heart feel? Okay, let's come into the present. In the present moment, when you're there, for me, it was my bedroom, alone, at night. I remember a lot at night. I'm sure during the day I was miserable as well. Oh my God, yeah. Okay, I remember having to go and do Zoom meetings and trying not to cry in the meetings. And that was fucking so hard. But the most memory I had, the most alone I felt, like when I was totally alone, I was in bed alone, usually with this laptop beside me, you know, reading, writing, watching videos, stuff like that. So in the present, we feel shame and no connection. So again, here we have love and connection and shame and no connection. And I'm making the argument that love and shame are basically opposites, right? So we feel ashamed. We feel like we have zero value. And we have no value because we're disconnected from our ex, but also we're disconnected from a lot more. We've disconnected probably from people, from friends. We've disconnected from our identity. We've disconnected from those other identities we had where, you know, we even feel disconnected from our true self. Even that feels lost to us. All right, so sometimes too we have this disbelief or rejection. So we're kind of rejecting the current thing. We can't believe what happened, right? We're in denial. And we're just rejecting everything, you know, like we're the past. What? It was all a lie. You don't even want to think about it. The future is full of threats. No, it's what the and you're just in this place. And that's when we come to this last part where we feel, desperate and obsessed. Okay? Totally the opposite. Totally the opposite of the other part. The other mind, remember we had a mind of patience. It's okay. You know, my dream isn't quite here yet, but it's cool. I've got this special person in my life, and now we're desperate and we are obsessed. So let's come here into the present. All right? I want to really contrast these because here's what's really crazy, my friends. Your past when you had zero resentments and your past when you were full of resentments, all of the past was the same. All the things that happened in the past were the same. Everything was the same. Nothing was different. Factually, all the things that had happened in your past were exactly the same. So even though everything in the past was the same, there was times when it was all logical, stable, it's cool, no resentments, they'd come up and you drop them. And then you look here in the past. Everything is chaotic and you're full of resentment. But that past is exactly the same. Now, I know what you're saying. What about, no, what are you talking about, Jesse? A bunch of my past there was with this person who devastated me. Yes, it's true. But that person who devastated you, they were going through these cycles of abuse of ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. And you never thought the downs were as bad as they were until you were discarded. But they were the same as when you were with them. That feeling of I just want them back and everything will be okay, and all that shit we compromised. Guys, I was begging my girlfriend the last time, well, my ex-girlfriend, I was begging my ex-girlfriend the last time we were together, I'll do anything. I'll be whatever you want. Oh, the worst feeling, guys. The worst feeling ever. So I was willing to forgive all of the things she did so that I could get back into this mind state. I believed, even though it's totally illogical, y'all know the truth, it wouldn't have worked, but at least in that moment I believed that if I had her love, it would fill me with this feeling of connection, and then when I would look back, I would have zero resentments, including towards her. And that wasn't the first time that happened. We had a lot of ups and downs in our relationship. No surprise there. And when we were in a down and a discard, I was full of resentment and chaos about the past. And when we were getting back together, all the past made sense and there was no resentments. Or when they would come up, I would just drop them. I really want to point out here, the only difference here was how I felt. The actual things that happened in the past were the same. Okay? And if it's hard for you to focus on the relationship part, focus on the past before the relationship, the way you felt about it when you were in love in the love bomb, and when you thought about the bad shit that happened in your life before you met your partner when you were in the love bomb, and then when you think about the bad shit that happened in your life during the discard. Okay? If it's hard to think about that relationship, think about the distant past. All right, and I hope that gives you enough evidence to realize that the problem is the way you feel in the present, how you're doing in the present, is deciding if you're full of resentment or if you're empty of resentment. Really important, guys. I'm going to get to why. And again, I'm going to show you how to fix this stuff. But we have to start here. We have to understand what's happening. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to look at the future. All right? When you were in love and when you were discarded, the true future was only a projection. The true future was only 100% a projection when you were in that moment. When you're in the moment of love bomb, you had no fucking clue this was all going to go downhill and you were going to wind up here watching this video. No, zero. I'm sure, especially this video, zero idea, right? You didn't know. The future you're at right now, you don't know what your future is in a year from now. You have no idea. Everything in the future is a projection. Now, in the past, okay, during the love bomb, when you felt that love and connection, that acceptance, that patient mind, the future was full of possibilities, optimistic, and there were no threats. Maybe if there's a threat, you could let it go. You go, that's a projection. I'll deal with that when it comes. Or if you're dealing with a threat that may happen, you're at least dealing with it logically. How about now, in the discard? Your future's empty, it's terrifying, and it is full of threats. If you guys are watching my other videos, you're going to see that I'm using some common words here. If you guys have been watching my videos, any of my videos, you're going to see that I'm using some common words here taught to me by 12 steps, which is resentment. Okay? Shame. And threats. Okay? Threats we can also call fears. Okay? We'll just call these fears. I'll just make them red. Okay? So look. This is the root of your problem. This is the true root of your problem. It's your shame, your resentments, and your fears. Okay? And underneath that problem, and I'll go into detail soon, is the love and connection part. Okay? You don't have a stable form of love and connection, and so you keep looking outside of yourself for love and connection. But we're going to get to that at the end. Okay? I'll explain that part at the end. But I just want you to see this, because a lot of the videos I talk about is that in 12 steps, which is a program of action, I have learned to interface with the world differently. Nope. Primarily with myself. I relate to myself differently when it comes to my resentments, my fears, and my shame. I relate to myself differently, and the only way I did it was through action. Every day, not once a day, not twice a day, however many times a day, those things came up. Why? In the past with my ex, who gave me this for a month or two, she regulated my emotions for me. I mean, in truth, she didn't. If you learn Buddhism, you're doing it all yourself, but if we're not ready to accept that yet, she regulated them for me. So when she was around in that love bomb, it was regulated for me. She just removed my shame, my fears, and my resentments. She removed all of them. Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, they removed them from you too. You soothed. You were self-soothing with them. Because you couldn't do it by yourself. Or at least you couldn't do it very well by yourself. Because if you could do this well by yourself, when those splits started happening, you would have known that you can provide this for yourself and you don't need it from this other person. And you can walk away, even if it's difficult at first. But you are regulating this through your partner. So, if you're still here, you're still with me, take 2 breaths. All right, listen to this, friends. I fooled you a little bit too. I fooled you a little bit. The first time I told you to take a deep breath, I got you to go back into the love bomb, right? I got you to go back into those feelings. Who made those feelings? She didn't make those feelings. She's gone. He didn't make those feelings. He's gone. Who made those feelings? I didn't make those feelings. You didn't have to have any of those. You didn't have to do it. But if you had even a little bit, if you had even 10% of that feeling, or if you were able to fill yourself, like, I don't know about you guys, I was able to fill myself back up with those feelings, even though I'm over my ex, even though I don't want that back, I was even able to feel it, just, instructing you to do it. You did that. When I brought you back to the discard and back to that negative feeling, who did that? They didn't do it. Not in that moment they didn't do it. I didn't do it. You did it. Now, it doesn't mean just because you know this in this moment that, oh, okay, cool, yeah, easy. Just because you know the answers doesn't mean you can do them by yourself every day. It doesn't mean you have that skill, okay? I know it's good to eat healthy. Doesn't mean I eat healthy. Vegetables. Wow, no McDonald's? Crazy. Yeah, I know. But doing it is a different thing, and doing it is a relationship to yourself. It's not a relationship to the outside world. It's not, I have to change my location so I'm closer to the fruit stand and the vegetable stand. It's not that, right? It's the motivation inside of us, okay? We're at a place when we're in the discard, the final discard, or really any discard, any time in the relationship, where the truth can be, where we can actually take in the truth and consciously change ourselves. And we can consciously change ourselves to be actually more resilient than before. So when I told you at the very starting of this, I am more resilient than I was before the relationship at any point in my life, because I have a new tool set. I have a new way of interacting with myself where these things outside of me are not required for my happiness. Now, I'm not perfect at it. I'm not an enlightened Buddhist master, no. But I'm way better at it than I've ever been in my life. And that has given me a level of resilience that I just never had before. And because you are forced now, where you are right now, you are forced. You are only given two options at this point. From this exact moment forward, you have two choices. You consciously rebuild your identity, you consciously rebuild yourself, or you fail to rebuild yourself. You only have two choices. And from this choice, when you rebuild, you have a few choices there, and that's what I'm going to show you now. This is around rebuilding yourself. Because we have this incredibly, in some ways, friends, lucky opportunity to be able to rebuild ourselves so that we can be resilient to things outside. That shame, that inner self, if we are able to change our internal environment, that access we have to our true nature around our purpose, around love, around creativity, around passion, helping the world, all of these things, we can embody it in a way that is very similar to the love bomb. Remember I gave you that thing on how did you feel in the love bomb, and you were able to consciously and cognitively change all of your feelings? That's where we go forward from here. This is how you can change yourself. But I'm going to show you what your options are, because it's important to be really honest about this. It's important to be really honest about the true options you have at the end of these kind of relationships. Okay. Post-discard identity. You must consciously change. You have no choice. After this kind of relationship, you consciously change or you don't. Your obsession, the obsession you're feeling all the time, is actually an indication. that you need to change. So, let's look at the red path first. You fail to change consciously. Okay? You fail to do it. You try and you fail, or you totally ignore it, right? Either one. You stay in ignorance, or you try your best but you just fuck it up. You just can't for whatever reason. Your connections aren't enough. You choose not to do some of the things you know might help you for whatever reason. No judgment on this either, guys. I have been down all of these roads. I've been down every single one of these roads. I can go into full detail of each part. So I've been down this road too. So you continually seek immediate gratification and distraction, and this is basically narcissistic supply, okay? And all that means is we fall back into some kind of addiction. And remember, in 12 steps, we're going to call codependency and, the continual going after the abuser. This is an addiction. It's no different than going after a drug that we know is no longer making us feel good. It's the same thing, okay? Addiction can also be, I put in distraction here because there's also healthy addictions, or addictions that seem healthy on the outside. Obviously, they're not healthy, but you can distract yourself with work, and you can distract yourself with alcohol, right? Like you can go either way, and the work is going to look a lot better to everyone else and maybe to yourself, but you're still protecting yourself from core shame, fear, and resentment, right? You're still protecting yourself from it. That's all addiction is. Remember, you're at the very bottom and you're just trying to get narcissistic supply. Consciously change, you're going to make the decision. So if you consciously change, but you fail to heal your core shame, your fear, and your resentment, you have a few different choices here. All right, so let's start with the top one. You become a super empath. All right, so instead of rejecting that codependent protector, and instead of rejecting our codependency, instead of feeling all this shame from it, we reverse it. So in this case, we're consciously changing, but we're still in a victim mindset, right? And they have this thing called communal narcissist, and we're basically a communal codependent. So we're like holier than thou. We start the church of empathy, the war against the narcissist, okay? Or you can be kind of a grandiose codependent. So you can shame everyone who's not living, a life of love. Because here's the deal. If you're living a life of love, if you're living a life connected to doing good things for people and shit like that, you don't need to shame people who are not doing that. And this super empath will let you know that you're doing it wrong and they're doing it right. And, it's good. And if only everyone in the world was like me, it would be great. If all of you just followed along and did what I did, it would be great. And you must do this. And if you don't do this, I have a problem with you. It's very different than helping people, and if they follow, they follow. If they don't, they don't, and you're cool with it. But you're not shaming people who don't follow you. You're having empathy for those. You're not claiming war on the narcissist. You can see in the narcissist, you can see in the borderline a piece of yourself without getting attached to the outcome that they have to heal or anything like that. Without getting attached to needing to fix them or save them or rescue them. You can just look at them with compassion. You don't have to know their whole story. You don't have to feel sorry for them. You just look at them with compassion. Wow, that's someone who's suffering. They're in a crazy mind state. They're possessed. I was possessed. All right. Compensatory narcissists. Guys, I've been this one too. I've been this one more than the super empath. The super empath, I maybe it's because I'm a guy. And the super empath for a guy, you're like, I'll never meet women if I'm a super empath. So compensatory narcissist, I'll go into more detail about this some other video. But we're just trying to control people overtly. And we're acting from a place of fear and resentment, okay? And I'm going to say, too, that this is also your red pill gurus, okay? Almost every red pill guru, if you're a guy and you don't know what red pill is, check it out. But this is very masculine, very male thing is the red pill. But a lot of red pill gurus are compensatory narcissists. A lot. I don't know if all, but guys, quite a lot. You see these men full of resentment, full of fear, never let your girlfriend go out with her friends. Create all of these boundaries. Do all of these things. If she does this, leave her right away. Never get too close. Never be vulnerable. Control her in this way. You need to have the one-up position. Be more like the narcissist. They don't say that, but that's what they're saying. Find a woman who's very submissive, aka codependent. We're almost trying to make ourselves into narcissists, and we're running our show from fear and resentment, and we're avoiding our shame. We don't let anyone get too close, and that's what it looks like. And you're going to know that you're this if you're using these kind of terms like most men are like this, or all men are like this, or most women are like this, or all women are like this. So we're going to start going after institutions like, the patriarchy created men to take advantage of women and be selfish, and that's why I'm abused. And I grew up in this traditional family, and I was told to be this way, and that's why I'm like this. So I have to reject all of these things, fight against all of these things. And any guy who's trying to have any sort of, leading me in any sort of way, I'm going to fight against that. This is totally wrong, and you're going to go this other direction. And for men, it's war on feminism, right? Feminism has empowered women enough that they can, abuse men. And if there hadn't been for feminism, then my borderline wouldn't have done this to me. And, these women, and look how they are, and they're all the double standards and blah, blah, blah. And that's how that's going to come in. Those are the kind of statements you make. So if you're making those statements to yourself with a lot of conviction, then that's a problem. Now, it's not to say you can't heal and have criticisms of patriarchy. It's not to say you can't heal and have criticisms of feminism. It's not to say you can't heal and work to change society to become more feminist or less feminist, or more traditional or less traditional. You can still work to do those things. But if you're working those things from a mind of resentment, and from a mind of fear, and from a mind that is avoiding shame, then it's just more negative karma. Okay, so consciously change. Here's a final answer. So seek proven assistance. Proven assistance. I can't say this enough, guys. There's a lot of people out there online saying all kinds of shit. Ask yourself, that person who you're getting guidance from, do they seem to be okay with stuff? Are they still in a victim mentality? Are they using statements like this? Men and women, most women are like this. The narcissist is like this, and here's all of the red flags you need to watch out for, and make sure you have this list with you when you're going for lunch with them, because maybe that's who they are. You can't trust your instinct. Okay? So, core shame. So any therapist, group, whatever, that deals with this idea of core shame is this idea that you were messed up since you were a kid. You've got this core shame. It's never left you. You've been so close to shame all the time that you're always seeking things outside of yourself for approval, and all of them are just short-lived, so you're kind of addicted to these things. Too much narcissistic supply. IFS therapy, internal family systems therapy. David Tehan, link in description. He's for men. I've not used his therapy, but I'm getting more into this stuff. Listening to his podcast. I have a book that I'm reading as well. May do a review on that. And 12 steps. Obviously, this is the one I did. It worked for me. Within 4 weeks, obsession stopped. Within 2 months, I was totally over my ex. Without the resentment. It was not just like, now I know how she is. Fuck borderlines, and No. Really, really over, guys. I never thought that would happen. I was in the same level of pain as you. I didn't, I had zero shame. There's no future. The past is fucked up, full of resentment. Everything is a threat. I was there. I've been there more than once. I've opened up on this to say that I've had more than one of these relationships. And I've been this, go find a new one. I've been this, go get a lot stronger, and be more narcissistic. And both of these failed me. This failed me because it led me into more bad relationships. Okay. other bad lifestyle choices. And I've been in this, and what this led actually was a greater disconnect from myself. Since I've embraced this other way of life, I'm far more creative. I have better identity. I have all this stuff. So that leads us to the very last part, which is what you get when you consciously change, seeking proven assistance. You get to be the real you, okay? Without needing stuff from the outside. Now, I will say this. These things are help from the outside, okay? They're all help from the outside, and they all provide you with a certain level of network, with a certain level of assistance. Because when we're in our shame and in our craziness, that's all we've known for a while. We don't know how to get out, or maybe it's all we've ever been. So having people on the outside who know, who are skilled with that because they've come out of it themselves, like in 12 steps, or because they're highly skilled and trained in that therapy, go check that stuff out. So you can be you, the real you, more resilient. Yeah, you can live your purpose. You can be loving. And I mean loving in the sense of wanting goodness for others without expecting something in return. I used to only want my borderline to heal, my borderline ex to heal, or anyone who I thought had that. I only ever wanted them to heal so I could get back together with them. Not even for themselves, right? I just wanted it for me. It's not loving. That's not loving. Loving is just the wish for people to be free of suffering, no matter what. That's loving. Okay? I can be imperfect. This one I still struggle with. This one is still hard for me. Out of all of these ones, I would say that that's the hardest one for me still, is to be able to be imperfect. For me to upload a video and it's not the best. Stuff like that. So you can be this more and more. And finally, you can be vulnerable without being needy. So this is really important. David Tehan from IFS had this great podcast on it, and I listened to it a couple months ago, and it was like in that space for so long. Wow, so incredible. You can be vulnerable without being needy. That's incredible. In our codependency, I need you to accept this gift for me to feel better about myself. I need to fix you so that you're not going to hurt me. I need to fix you so your anger is gone. I need to fix you so your pain is gone. I need this from you. Or I can show you who I am. I can open that curtain and let you in without needing something from you. So I can show some of this to you. And if you reject me, I can handle it. I'm not showing it to you in a way that's putting pressure on you to be cool about it. That's needy. So there's a huge difference there. For everyone. For us as men, I feel like it's different. I thought when I was in this game over here of being the compensatory narcissist, when I was being this thing right over here, I thought vulnerability and neediness were the same thing. I was so afraid to open up. I was so afraid to do that. And ironically, or maybe unsurprisingly, I end up opening up to a borderline instead of literally like anyone else. Or those people who I opened up to who were not borderline, I didn't totally trust. So I was where you were. I'm now where you want to be. The psychic change isn't getting more information to see the world differently. The psychic change is not learning all about borderlines and the red flag checklist. The psychic change isn't learning all women or men are like this. The psychic change isn't finding things that make me feel good and pushing away the things that don't make me feel good. It's all the same game we've already been playing before. It was all the same thing. In your codependency, when you were walking on eggshells, it was also an information. The more information I can get and collect, then I can avoid these terrible emotions. It didn't work for you then, did it? When has it ever worked in your life in any kind of consistent way? The psychic change is within. And it is practiced. It is not, you don't arrive at it. Watch this video as many times as you need to. If you're in that very down position, understand that your desperation and your obsession is a mixture of your protector self and the desperation and your shame. The more shame you are filled with, the closer you are to needing narcissistic supply, the more likely you are to go back to your ex or someone else who will abuse you. That's your addiction. That's your comfort place, strangely enough. And or you'll go after other addictions, unhealthy addictions. This could take you a long, long time. The resilience against shame in 12 steps is a higher power, is an all-loving higher power, so that when everything is gone, you still have that. Buddhism has something similar to this. Although it's deeper, I'm still learning about it. I've been doing Buddhism pretty hardcore for a few months now. But that's kind of the resilience against that. And all we're doing in 12 steps is we're just simply taking the burden off of that protector self, that codependent self that keeps coming out, that codependent protector. It comes out when it's overwhelmed with threats, past threats, aka resentments, future threats, fears, right? When it's overwhelmed by those things, it comes out unconsciously and we start acting in crazy ways. So if every day when these things come up, I actually deal with them and I get rid of them, it means that that codependent self gets to just that protector that's really unconscious, that's really needy, that's selfish. It has to be selfish. It's protecting me. It should be selfish. Love it. I love it. I love that I have that inside of me. But it can just chill out over here when a real threat comes that I can't handle. And the more I do this, the better and better, the easier it gets, the more it's in the background. And then I don't have to come up with all these rules around boundaries and this and that. I simply manage, consciously manage these feelings when they come up. And that fundamentally changes your relationship with yourself. When you have to look at your fears all the time, your resentments all the time, your shame all the time when it comes up, it's coming up as often as it does when you're in a relationship. I mean, maybe less because you're not being abused and stuff, right? But it comes up as often. But I'm not scared of it this time. I'm not scared of it anymore. Sometimes I'm scared of it, but you have, in 12 steps, you have a sponsor, you have a fellowship, you have people where when you really are overwhelmed, I don't know how to fucking deal with the situation, I can message my sponsor, hey, can we talk? Things are kind of fucked up. So that's it. I wish you all healing however you find it. If you find it through one of these 3 ways I recommend, that's great. If you have truly found healing, I mean truly found healing, like really, 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 not temporary, not this week has been good, I mean like long-term good healing without the resentment, without the fear, without the shame, throw something in the comments, help people out. In this community, we need good solutions where we're coming out and we're not victims, right? We need good solutions to this kind of stuff. And if one of those 3 things, if there's something outside of that helped you, please, please, please share it in the comments. Any questions you have, throw it in the comments. You can also, as always, talk to me directly, message me directly on Reddit. And all the links to all kinds of healing and stuff like that are in the description. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day. I wish you all a wonderful life as well. Thanks, guys.